Hello, hello. If you're watching this, you missed our day 2 of week 14 computer science principles. Let's get to it. Lots of going on. So first of all, don't forget, you have a test, quiz, whatever you want to call it, quest on May 18th, Tuesday. That's coming up. You need to be ready. So the whatever assessment you want to call it is going to be 20 questions. It's going to take us about half an hour to do. And it's going to be focusing on the concepts covered in this video, but anything from the class is fair game to be on there. But I'm going to be going over the problems that you got most wrong on the practice test. So, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, probably those are important to understand in order to do well on the quest. Pretty much everyone's finalized their submissions except for the 2 people I keep emailing. So if you're one of those, you gotta help me out here. You're making me very, very upset. And we didn't quite get to the encryption stuff, so that'll be due on Tuesday. So you don't have to worry about that right now. All right, let's get to it. So we're going to go through some questions. The most missed questions were these, the ones with the chart. So the trick to these is you have to read them very literally. You cannot extrapolate. You cannot read, into it. You can't think outside the box. None of that. You have to just go with the data you're provided in the table itself. All right, so let's see. We're going to help people who are expecting packages to be delivered while they're away. The purpose is to give certain people in our organization special code or key to open your door. We have input processes, output, APIs, and some time information. The question is asking you, what is an impact to society? Well, let's look at, let's say, C. Most businesses will use or offer this service. Is that desired? Yes. Is that anywhere in this chart? No, it's not in the chart. It's not right. C is out. Let's look at D. Less theft will occur because businesses will have proof that deliveries were made. Is that probably true based on the description? Yes. Is that in the chart? No, it can't be right. D is out. See how that works? If it's not in the chart, it's not the right answer. Even though it sounds good, it's not in the chart. The economy will get a boost as more purchases are done. You see how this works? Nothing in here about that. So it's out. More delivery drivers will be employed because those deliveries take longer. Look at that. Average delivery time with app takes twice as much as the time without the app. A is the right answer. Now you might say, well, A is such a reach. Yeah, I agree with you, but A is in the chart and the other ones aren't. A has to be right. So please, 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 you have to read these very literally. Same thing here. What output is provided? These sound good, but only one of them is right. There's only 2 outputs, so D can't be right because there's 3 options up here. So D is out. Signal to open door, that's not in here. Where do you see that? Alert text message to delivery company. No. There's a text message to the homeowner. No, nothing to the delivery company. Unique code to delivery person. Yes, that's right here. So C is the correct answer here. So again, read it very carefully. Details are important. All right, this is a bad question. So if you got this one wrong, don't feel too bad. We didn't really talk about crowdsourcing. It's not a central theme of this class. I'm not sure why there's a question on it. However, this could happen on the AP exam, so you have to try your best. So if they ask you a left field question like this, I think the best strategy to apply is to look for answers that are definitely wrong and eliminate them, and you have a better chance of guessing the right one. So if you don't quite remember what crowdsourcing is when you go to random people on the internet and you try to get something out of them. Usually it's money, like with Kickstarter, you ask random strangers for money, but it could be other things. So could we diagnose medical conditions? Well, no, you don't want to ask a bunch of people about their medical conditions because first of all, that's illegal. But second of all, they're probably not going to give you very accurate information. So A is not good for a number of reasons. How about B? Asking those who register with the company to evaluate new products. So this one might sound good. The problem is crowdsourcing has to be random people. If you're asking those who register with a company, they're no longer random. So that's the problem with B. If you didn't know that, you might have guessed B, such as life. It's okay. C, lowering costs by using the crowd's computers during periods of inactivity. Uh, this is a real thing. That's not what crowdsourcing is, though. This is borrowing someone's processing power, which you can do. You can buy processing power online, but that's not what we're talking about. So D is the correct answer, matching people needing work with job openings. These are random people who can then be matched with a job. That's allowed. Again, very random question. I don't think you'll face this on the AP exam, but everyone missed it. I understand why. It's a bad question. All right, encryption. We're going to be talking about encryption next week. So number 14 and one other one on this test was based on this unit we haven't really gone over yet. So don't worry about this. We will be answering it momentarily in the next couple of classes. All right, 57 is really important. So there's a caveat to the AP exam, the way that they do their code. Everything is basically the same as what we're used to. However, if we look at the the AP pseudocode reference guide right here, this kind of gives you an overview of all the possible commands that exist in their language. This is kind of the API for it. There's a couple of caveats. Caveat number one is when you go to do Boolean operators, equals means equals equals in any other language. It's a comparator, not an assignment operation. Assignment is done using an arrow symbol. So that's important to remember. And the second thing that's a little weird is the fact that if you look at the list operations down here, you'll see that the first element of a list is index 1, not 0. We're used to it being starting at 0, and that's normal in most programming languages. However, they have chosen their lists to start at 1. So if you got this question wrong, it's probably because you were counting from 0, which is what we're used to. So be very careful. AP is tricky like that. There's those two exceptions to regular rules. So you need to remember that if you're taking the exam. And the correct answer would be C, which I'm sure you could all figure out if you start the array at 1 instead of 0. Next, there's this thing. The problem with this question is they wrote it poorly. It only works if grade and number, these two variables, are both integers. They never say that. However, one important concept to keep in mind is you always, 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 if they ask you to select two answers, have to pick two. So please make sure you pick two. If you pick one, you're guaranteed to be wrong. If you pick two, maybe you got it right. Who knows? So A is for sure correct. We can double check. Number less than or equal to 42, not number more than 42. So that's the same thing. And grade equal to 9 or grade more than 9. Well, that's the same thing as grade is more than or equal to 9, right? So all of these work. Then we have number is less than 43 and grade is more than 8. This works, but only if these two are integers. If they are some kind of fractional number, this doesn't work. So you got to be careful. This is the right answer, but it's a little weird because they never told you that restriction. It's the only one that could possibly work, though. If you look at C and D, C and D just never work, right? So it's the next closest one. So the correct answer here is B and A. So there you go. That's how we do it. 24, again, we're going to talk about this. This has to do with cybersecurity, which we'll discuss next week. 11. So this has to do with recognizing what these terms mean. So single target criteria elimination and targeted data have to do with intentional sorting of information that you initiate as the user. A citizen scientist is somebody who is not professional but wants to help out and does some kind of data gathering for an organization. And then bias is the correct answer. Now, what makes bias the correct answer is bias is unintentional. You didn't mean to cause this problem. These two options down here are something you choose to do to accomplish a goal. So let's see. When analyzing a list of potential employees, an algorithm notices, or people using the algorithm notice that there are no members of a particular group. With further research, it is determined that part of the criteria that the algorithm used included prior employees in that position, which had few from that particular group. So what does that mean? That means we're excluding a certain population unintentionally. We have a bias on our hand. We're not collecting information about them and then eliminating some of them because we don't want to look at that group, which is what single criteria elimination would be. We're not looking for a very, very targeted group of people, targeted data. We're just accidentally leaving them out. Bias is the correct answer. You need to know what these terms mean. All right. This is another example where reading the question very carefully is important and not extrapolating any farther than what the question says. So a simulation for a new app allows students to place a lunch order by 11 a.m. And we're going to measure the speed of the line. Pick two answers. You have to pick two. So can we see if a new line at the pickup station will cause slowdown? Maybe it will. Is that something we're measuring? We're measuring speed? We could see this. So A is correct. B, if students will use the app more often. We have no way of measuring this. Nothing in here says we're measuring how often they use it. So B is out. Even though maybe we care about that, that's not in the problem description. So we can't measure it. C, if the app will decrease the amount of waste food. Again, nothing in here about waste food. Can't be the right answer. The right answer is D and A. All right, modulus division, very important. When you modulus something by 2, you find out if it's even or odd. Modulus returns the remainder of dividing a number by another number. So if we, let's say, take 5 and modulus by 2, we will get 1. If we take 5 and modulus it by 5, we get 0. If we take 5 and modulus it by 10, we get 5. So you need to understand how mod works to answer this question. We, again, need to select 2. An alarm company needs to record the number of times each door is open and closed, and we care to see if the door is still open. Well, if we multiply by 2, that doesn't do anything, so A is out. If we do mod 2, now we can find out if it's been open more times than it's been closed, so B is correct. C also works. If the number of times the door is open does not equal the number of times it's closed, obviously it must still be open. I don't see any way you could open the door twice. And the quotient of dividing the door, well, that's just ridiculous. So D is clearly out. The correct answers are B and C. Similarly, maybe you have to do something like this with mod. Just try some numbers. Throw some numbers in there. Try 50. 50 mod 10. What does that give you? Gives you 0. Okay. How about 55? 55 mod 10 gives you 5. Well, it seems like we're getting the ones position, right? So just test it out and you'll find the right answer. Correct answer is A. This one has to do with understanding vocabulary. You need to know what all these terms mean. Classifying data is just taking data and putting into the correct table, right? This is cats, goes into cats. This is a dog, goes into dogs. Cleaning data is making sure all of the information matches. So if you have time, it says 2, and then someone else wrote 2 using words. We have to reconcile that and make everything match. Clustering data, you guys did this when you created a histogram, putting a bunch of information into one bucket and seeing all of it together rather than as individual points can be useful to interpret information. And filtering data, we did that as well. You can look at just senators from Maryland or Virginia to get a better idea of just that particular targeted group. So all of the above work. You need to know these terms in order to answer the question. All right, with that, we are pretty much done with going over the test. If you have further questions, feel free to email me and I'd be happy to go over them with you. Now, we did start in on ciphers. So on code.org, you now will see that Unit 10 is available to you. In Unit 10, Lesson 9 is all about ciphers. So please check this out. This is something we'll be looking at on Tuesday, but you can play around with it yourself just so that you're not totally new to it when we go to use it. So Unit 10, Lesson 9, right here, and there's 2 encryption widgets. This one is the Caesar cipher, and this one is a random substitution cipher. Play around with it, see if it makes sense to you, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Hope you have a good one, and take care.